I am so excited for today's video because it's definitely a long time coming. Sam and I have been dating for over 8 years now, and we have been engaged for 2 years, or almost 2 years. I think it's 2 years in January. And even though it's been such a long time, I have never shared our love story. I haven't really shared a lot about our relationship together. And I definitely haven't ever shared our proposal story. So today is the day that I'm finally going to share all that and also answer a few different questions about us and our future. There's nothing more to say. Let's get right into it and spend the next few moments just talking about the beauty of love with little tapping feet in the back. So before we get into any questions, I want to talk about how we met and what drew us to each other to begin with. Now, I can't speak on Sam's behalf, but I can talk about my side of the story, and I'm sure we can always get him on to share his side too. But Sam and I met 8 years ago now, so I was 19 turning 20, and he would have been 4 or 5 years older than me. We met while we were both working at the Irish pub in Knox in Melbourne. I was a bartender, and I also had shifts where I would sit at the door, and as people would come in, I would check their IDs and all that stuff. And he was a new bussy, and I remember the first day he started working, just seeing him like this random person just pop outside. And back then I was like very social, so I loved quizzing any new person and just asking them random questions because I was very bored sitting at the door. For a lot of times there wasn't many people coming in and out, so it was my only form of entertainment, especially because the patrons couldn't come up to me. It was only the staff that could. So I remember noticing him on that day, and then for some reason, anytime I mainly worked in the outside bar and the upstairs bar that were often quieter. I love that because it meant I didn't have to work super hard. I just got to kind of chill and really be personable, talk to people. A lot of the time my friends were there around me as well, whether they were friends from outside of the bar or ones that I met at the bar. And I noticed that Sam was always the one bussing around the bars that I was at. I now later found out that he chose to go there so he could hang out with me, but back then I was always like, that's such a coincidence. This really nice guy, funny, quirky, keeps coming over, so, might as well chat. He seems nice. And I guess that was kind of like my first impressions of him. He didn't seem shy, but he was definitely a lot more reserved and quiet compared to some of like the other outgoing bartenders at the bar that were a little bit sleazy. He just seemed like a really nice guy. Whenever we had work parties or whenever we went out together as a group, I always gravitated towards him. I remember there was a trivia night we went to once, and I strategically sat down next to him and followed him around because he was just so easy to chat to, and now I see why, because we were just destined to be together. Back then though, absolutely no feelings towards him. I had no idea that any of this was going to happen.
What qualities attracted me to you? Fun-loving, bubbly. Red hair, yeah. Just like the dorky traits. Just really easy to talk to. Like, we were working together, so I used to seek out conversations with people, and you were the easiest person to convince to have a conversation with me. That was entertaining. Yeah, because you were bored.
So now that you know a little bit more about how we first met, let's talk about what has been the most memorable moment for us as a couple. And I think there's probably so many that I'm forgetting, but one that definitely stands out hands down is our trip to Thailand together. This was Sam's first trip overseas. I have been to Thailand before and traveled a lot, but I so enjoyed going with him because there was such a sense of adventure to that trip together. We hired a scooter and we drove that scooter everywhere we went. Everywhere we went, there was also little cocktail bars where you could get takeaway cocktails and then take them down to the beach or take them by the poolside. And it was just a really lovely way to have a mix of both like luxury and relaxation, and also that sense of adventure with, you know, seeking out new places and exploring culture, eating good food, eating lots of street food. It was a blast. And that was actually the trip where we went kayaking and we stumbled upon Railay Beach, which is where we're going to get married later on next year. So it's a full circle moment that one of the biggest memories in our life was also the trip that's going to define our future together as a married couple. My favorite part of Railay Beach though, and I'm not sure if I've ever shared this before, I may have in one of our like travel vlogs, but my favorite moment of that kayaking trip is both Sam and I are very stubborn and both fiercely independent and in need of controlling, which can sometimes be really beneficial to both of us when we're taking on the leadership role in a project. But when we're trying to kayak and both of us are trying to lead the kayak and where it needs to go and how it needs to be managed, it causes a fight, which is exactly what happened. And we ended up having to just like stop on the beach side and like storm off from each other and take a moment to just breathe and like fume to ourselves. And while we were doing that and walking very quickly, not side by side, we ended up stumbling across this little temple, or this little, I don't know, it was like a little cave, and inside it was absolutely full of male paraphernalia. And so though we were so angry at each other for like this little tiny thing, we ended up bursting out laughing because this was actually the point of coming to that beach and we didn't realize quite what it meant. And so yeah, that moment was just so hilarious that we just realized how silly we had been for having this little fight over who was going to steer the kayak and who was doing a good job and who not. So yeah, that was definitely my favorite moment.
Most memorable moment. Anytime we've gone overseas, specifically visiting Israel. It was really nice going to the place where you grew up. It was essentially your hometown, which I'm used to being like the sticks of Australia, Victoria. You know, you go to someone's hometown or like it's a suburb, and Diane's hometown is a historically significant location in the middle of Asia Minor. It's a beautiful place, and it was really cool to go there. And yeah, I'll never forget that.
Okay, now it's time for what I'm sure many of you came for, the proposal story. How exactly it all happened, when did it happen, and yeah, those first initial feelings when it did happen, when he finally got down on his knee. So by this point in our relationship, when Sam was planning to propose, we had been together almost 8 years. So it has been a while, and it was something that we were talking about openly. We both knew it was in our future, and it was just a matter of time for when it would happen. We got engaged summer 2 years ago. So my baby niece was turning 1 and I was heading down to Melbourne for her first birthday. This was back when we had pigs, we had chickens, we had our dogs and our cats, so things on the homestead were really busy and really full, and going away for a day trip was really difficult. So a lot of the time we would have to go separately, and so that's what was happening. So I packed up my things ready to go down to Melbourne, and I had already been there for a couple of days staying with my sister and her husband. And yeah, it was just a really lovely trip to spend with them. And then the day before my niece's first birthday, because she was having a birthday party, we wanted to go out exploring, and my sister and I were chatting and trying to figure out where we wanted to be, and she was like, oh, you kept suggesting this place like up towards Ringwood. It was like this river that you really like, and I was like, oh, Warburton, you want to go to Warburton? Like, it's a pretty far drive, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, that sounds really nice, maybe we can finally go there. And this is like after years of trying to convince my sister to go there with me, and she's always said no. So I was so excited to finally get to take her to my favorite spot in Victoria. And so the next day came around and we ended up getting into the car and going up to Warburton. This was in the middle of summer, so it was a high 30s day. It was very hot. We had a soon-to-be 1-year-old bub in the car, so I think it was an hour-and-a-half trip that we had to drive, and like it was pretty loud some of the time in the car, but she insisted on keeping on going, and so we kept going forward. We followed the GPS, and her GPS was telling her to, so once we got closer, her GPS was telling her to turn a certain way, and I was like, oh no, that's not normally where we would go. We would drive a bit further and park up there. And she was insisting that that's where she wanted to park because that's what the GPS was saying. And I mean, at this point, like, we've been sisters for 20 odd years. So I was kind of like, all right, you take the lead. You don't know the place, that's fine, I understand. You take the lead because you want to, and I'll just quietly go with it and slowly steer you where I think we should go. So that happened, and we ended up parking, and she wanted to walk the opposite way than where I would normally walk. So you've got like the river going one way, and then the river continues the opposite way, but there really isn't much there. It all gets really dense with forest, and it's really hard to navigate. And keep in mind, high 30s day, little baby that can get quite impatient. Luckily, she was really good for a lot of it. And we're walking the opposite way from where I would normally go. And this whole time I'm trying to be like, hey, there's not a lot here, we need to turn around. And you know, just a normal day, I think we're just going swimming to my favorite place. And she's insisting on going that way, so we end up walking along that path for maybe 15 minutes. And the whole time she's like on her phone because there's something going on at home with their renovations. They were renovating a kitchen at the time. And I'm like, all right, whatever, we'll go with the flow. This is just a lovely day out with my sister. We haven't done this in years. Eventually though, she concedes and she lets me convince her to turn around and walk the right way. And so we do. And I keep trying to convince her to go across the bridge when the bridge pops up so that we can be in the shade away from the sun. She's insisting that we shouldn't. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And we keep walking and walking and walking, and I'm like, look, like, if we cross the bridge, like, we'll be in a nice shaded spot. There's a swimming spot just a little bit further. You know, I'm telling her about my favorite place. We're just chatting. She insists on going forward, and I'm like, whatever, there's a toilet block up ahead, so maybe we can stop off at the toilet block. There's a bridge after it, and then we can cross the bridge. And she once again concedes after a very long time. Like, her baby's now getting a little bit upset. That's Ayla. Ayla's getting a little bit upset. It's really hot, it's really sweaty. Josh is on the phone to her, so we stop off at the toilet blocks. She goes in and I hold on to Ayla, and we go to the river's edge and we look down. We can see the bridge across, and I'm getting pretty excited. And then once Inna comes back around, we end up finally crossing the bridge to the right side so we can go swimming. And as we're crossing the bridge, I look to the end and I see a dog, and I'm like, man, that dog looks just like Kobe. I mean, like, you know, that's a pretty common dog, like he's a Maltese poodle, so a really common dog. I'm like, oh, it's so strange, he looks just like Kobe. And then another dog pops up, and I'm like, wow, that dog looks a lot like Eris. And I'm like, wait, what are the chances that someone has two dogs that look exactly the same as my dogs? Like, that's so bizarre. Is that Eris? And I start like saying this out loud. I'm like, is that Eris? Eris? And I call out to him. And like the dog doesn't quite respond, but like looks. And I'm like, that's so strange. And as I keep walking up and saying all these things out loud, like how strange, like they look just like my dogs, I spot Sam. And so Sam is at the end of the bridge where we would normally go swimming. And he ends up pulling me off to the side, and at this point everything blurs away. The dogs are like jumping around like crazy. I turn back to my sister and I'm like, oh, I know what's going on now. I get it. You guys have completely fooled me. And my first question to Sam is, what are you doing here? Who's looking after the farm? what's going on? And he's like, don't worry about any of that right now. I have it under control. And he gets down on one knee and he holds open the ring box. And I'm just like, and you gonna say anything? And he's like, what? And I'm like, you're supposed to profess your love right now. Haven't you watched any movies? And of course he hadn't. So, you know, he said, no, actually he went down on one knee saying my love in Russian. And then he was just holding it up there. And I'm sure he said, will you marry me? But I'm not sure. Anyways, little banter aside, I said yes, and he didn't know that he was supposed to put the ring on my finger, and so I let him know gently, probably not, that he was supposed to. And then, yeah, we were engaged. So that was the story. Later I found out, once we started talking about it, that the whole time that my sister was on the phone with her husband about the renovation, she was actually on the phone with Sam, and Sam was trying to give her directions on where to take us, and she ended up misinterpreting his directions and going the opposite way than he said, which is where all of this, like, no, we must go this way, and her insisting to go away at my favorite river that she didn't even know about, and trying to convince me that she had friends that told her to go that way and that she wanted to listen to them. And I was like, all right, whatever, sounds pretty convincing to me, not gonna argue. Yeah. Oh, and another thing that I later found out, when we stopped off at the toilet blocks and I was looking over the river at the water's edge towards the bridge, Sam was actually there on the other side with the dogs, and I hadn't seen him, but he had seen me looking over, and he was freaking out because he didn't want to get spotted before he actually got to surprise me. So yeah, very funny story and really sweet. He ended up proposing to me in our favorite swimming spot, our favorite river down in Warburton. He ended up also fighting off a bunch of people who were trying to take the swimming spot while he was standing there, and telling them like, hey, I'm about to propose to my girlfriend any minute. I promised you they're coming. Like half an hour later, I'm still not there. And he's like, I promise she's still coming. I'm not just being a jerk and kicking you off of this swimming spot. Like, she's coming. So I guess that whole situation really put to light just how well Sam works under pressure. Even though he has intense anxiety, he pulled that off so well. I mean, it's stress-inducing enough to have to propose to someone, let alone to have the anxiety of sending her sister the wrong way and them getting lost. It also shows how strong my relationship is with my sister at this point, that there are just moments where I have learned that I need to be quiet and let her take control, and then there's other moments where she's got to let me take control. So that was a lot of fun. Sam ended up proposing to me too with his Oma's ring, which is so precious and so beautiful to both of us. She had passed away just the year prior to us getting engaged, and that Christmas, so a few weeks before this all happened, he asked his mum for the ring, which almost got given to his mum's brother, so his uncle had his eyes set on the ring as well. And so Sam asked at the perfect moment so that we didn't lose the ring in the family. But that's the ring there. It is absolutely stunning. My favorite detail is this side here. I just think it's so beautiful. It's beautiful for the way that it looks and the fact that, you know, it's vintage, but it's also beautiful for what it signifies and what it means, and the journey that this ring has been on prior to being on my finger is so special, and I'm just so honored to have it on my finger again. So yeah, that's our proposal story. So next question is, how do we envision our future together as far as our work goals and also with children? I'll start off by saying that Sam and I are really good at supporting each other in embarking on our goals and also making them happen. this has been a trait that we've had in our relationship, where we will often make sure that we sacrifice things in our lives to make things happen for each other, or we just build it into our plan as we go. So it never feels like we're missing out on anything, trying to let the other person live out their dreams. In our future, I see us continuing to do the jobs that we currently are. So myself in teaching, Sam in disability care, as well as pursuing his music with his band. Once we get a little bit more settled in a place, I mean, we have been for the last 3 years. It's only this year that's been a bit unsettled. But once we resettle ourselves, I really see us having a lot of ambition and a lot of drive in these careers, especially the music. So I'm looking forward to that. We do hope to continue doing our YouTube channel, traveling, exploring and sharing all that, as well as our homestead, and yeah, just supporting each other in that with whatever direction it takes. As far as kids go, we are definitely very clucky, and that's a term for we are ready to have kids. But we definitely know that right now we're in a bit of a phase where we're transitioning, and we're just enjoying this last big trip together on our bus, going traveling for our honeymoon, and then we'll be pretty much ready to have kids. We hope to have 2, but there isn't really, you know, we haven't put a lot of pressure into what that future with kids will look like. We just know that we do want them around. And I guess that's one of the main reasons we're living this lifestyle as we are, is because this is the place that we would love to raise our kids. We want them to be adventurous, we want them to be connected with nature the way that we have, and to really know more about their food system and where their food is coming from. So that's all really important to us, and we hope to raise our kids in this kind of environment. As far as where that's going to happen, it is very likely that we will stay right here in the Bega Valley, but we also have ambitions to live overseas. Not sure if that's one day in Israel, where I was born, or if it's in New Zealand or Tasmania, which I know technically isn't overseas, but it's kind of like that stepping stone to be a little bit further away from our home country, but still be connected enough to family if we need help. Because that's another big factor, that when we have kids, like, it's going to be a lot of hard work. So we're planned, we kind of know where we're heading, but at the same time, it's also open and flexible, that we can't really set anything in stone. What are some of Sam's and mine shared interests and hobbies? Sam and I are so different from each other. I think we have a lot of hobbies and things that we don't share, but there's definitely a few that we do. We both have an immense love of cooking and food. We're huge foodies. We love to try out new cuisines. We love to explore and to try out street food. We love to experiment in our own cooking at home, and we often cook most of our meals each day. We have a few favorites that we always cook, but then a lot of other times we are smoking things or barbecuing things or stewing things. Yeah, we love food. Another shared passion is camping and exploring. We love to travel, we love to get out, we love to be in nature, whether that's going for hikes or just relaxing somewhere, finding new places, going swimming. So that's a huge trait as well that we share with each other, or a hobby. Both of us are also very creative. Mind you, we're creative in different ways, but we both love music. We love to sing together and play together. I don't play an instrument, I play with my voice. I think that's about the extent of our shared hobbies and interests, which is kind of fun. We're both very open to each other's hobbies and interests, and so we often, learn about them or indulge each other in them, but not a lot of times do we do a lot of them together. Like, Sam's not going to sew or do macrame with me, and at the same time I'm going to play video games with him. But I think that's so important in our relationship, to have big things like camping and food that connect us, but also things that allow us to be independent and creative in our own ways. I think it makes us a stronger couple to have those hobbies. And another shared hobby is filming and creating our videos, homesteading. I mean, that to us is more of a lifestyle now than it is a hobby, which I guess is why it didn't come to mind. How do we handle disagreements and conflicts? Well, just like any couple, we yell, we get upset, we separate, as in like move to different rooms and have some quiet time where we are not chatting to each other as we fume, reflect, and think about what is happening. And then a lot of times I've started doing something, and I've encouraged him to as well, where if one of us is upset, even though we might need a few hours, even a day to fester and to get over it and to reflect on it, to think of a solution to move forward, we'll try to come over to each other and just give like a silent hug or some kind of physical touch that says, hey, I love you, but I need time. And oftentimes the arguments that we have or the disagreements are really petty, really small, or even based on a resolution that we've already come to. And so once we've had that moment to kind of move away from each other and think, we come back together when we're ready. Usually it's someone being like passively aggressively like, are we going to talk? Which is, I think that's normal for a lot of relationships, but it gives us a chance to sit face to face, to listen to one another, and we always come back to, hey, I'm speaking now, I just need you to listen without rebutting, without saying anything back. Listen to my perspective, to my side of the story, and then you can say your piece and I'll listen to you. And so we'll take turns kind of calmly discussing how we feel. Sometimes it gets a little heated again, and then we have to remind each other that, you know, we're not trying to make the problem bigger, we're trying to find a solution to move forward. And a lot of the times, as I mentioned, there are patterns to why we're having a disagreement, or it's something really petty that we may not have noticed that the other person wanted or was doing. And so it easily gets solved, but I think it's just a natural process to go through those steps of having that big outburst of emotion. It's never irrational, or it's never accusatory of one another. Like, we're never trying to hurt the other person. I think that would be quite unhealthy. It's just a, hey, I'm really upset by this situation and I need time to process it so that we can move forward. Do you have any special traditions or rituals? Not really. We don't have any traditions or rituals that I can think of. I would love to have some as we start having kids, and even just with this channel, like wanting to embrace the seasons. I really do want to have more traditions and rituals. Sam's never been much of a holiday person. He's very much against consumerism, and a lot of holidays are based on that. So we've always tried to find ways to make it more about moments and connecting, rather than being about materialistic things. One ritual that I guess we do kind of have is to do with our birthdays. We've always had a thing where we organize each other's birthdays. Sometimes it's in private, like Sam loves to put on scavenger hunts for me, and I absolutely love it as well. While other times, like for him, I might just consult him in it and be like, hey, I know you want some friends. I know at the moment we're into board games or into having barbecues. Should we get everyone round together? And then I'll take the lead and organize all that for him. That's probably the only ritual we really have at the moment. I'd love to know though if you guys have any traditions or rituals that have really been joyful in your relationship, or something that you think would be fun. Let me know down in the comments. I would love to bring on more rituals and traditions. Thank you so much for sitting through this video so far. It's definitely a long one, but I'm really enjoying just connecting with you guys and sharing a little bit more of our personal life and a little bit more about our love journey. If you've enjoyed the video so far, give it a like and let's keep going. What are some of the long-term goals and aspirations you have as a couple? We definitely want to own and build a sustainable permaculture-based property and homestead. That's definitely in our future. It's something that we've delved into on this rental, but we could only do it in a temporary basis because we knew this wasn't our future. This wasn't where we were going to be in the future. And I think there's been a lot of lessons and things that we've learned from this property that we're really eager to start and do straight away on our own block one day. Not sure where that will be or when, but at least right now we're building our bus together into a home so that no matter where life takes us, we'll have our home and we can start straight away. I think I mentioned before as well, we have the goal to go and live overseas together. Sam has never lived outside of Australia. I was born overseas, so I can't say the same, but we would love to go and live somewhere different, experience the culture, whether that's Israel, whether that's Thailand or a different Asian country, whether it's, you know, somewhere different that we haven't even considered yet. I guess if the opportunity ever arises, we want to jump on it when we feel like we're ready. Not sure if that will be while we have a young family or after, but yeah, I'm excited to see where life takes us. We're also big travelers, so we hope to continue to travel for all our lives. Once things settle down in Russia and Ukraine, we do hope to get onto the Trans-Siberian Railway and ride out the train for a while and just really immerse in our hobbies. We would love to go to Japan. Japan has been one of the top things on our list to go and travel to. See more of different Asian countries like the Philippines I would love to go to, going to Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, like there's so many places on our list. Scandinavia, the Mediterraneans, like so much. So I hope as the years go on, that still continues to be a big priority for us and living our life right now in this moment, not waiting for retirement. That's a big goal for us. What are your favorite qualities and strengths in each other? Again, I can't speak for Sam. I had wanted to get what he thought and put it in here. I still might, so stay tuned if I bring Sam on. This is my space. No, I'm kidding. My favorite qualities of Sam's is his extroversion. He is someone that no matter who he meets, he finds something to connect with them with, and it's like they're best friends and they've just met. So I absolutely love that about him. And he could talk for hours. So this is probably a strength and something that I'm like, oh, come on, let's go home. But I love that. Another thing I love, another quality of his is his love and passion for cooking. Sam is a fantastic cook. He makes amazing soup, he makes fantastic curries, and barbecue food, mwah, chef's kisses. Another quality, I mean, he's got so many qualities that I love, but something that drew me to him from day one was his fun fact Sam, we call it. So he has this knack for remembering random facts and just pulling them out at the drop of a hat and just relaying them in the most funny way. So I absolutely love that about him. It's like his brain is full of knowledge and random facts, and I absolutely love just like hearing it when it comes up. Sometimes I hear it more than once and then it really sticks in, and other times it's just like, how do you even know that and why do you know that? Music is also another quality that I love in Sam. He is a very talented musician and very creative. There is not anything that he couldn't do if he didn't try. So very impressed with that. And I guess the last thing that I really love in him is just his ability to make me feel like a goddess. He looks at me and the way he speaks to me and about me, it's like you can really hear the love and the care that he has for me. And I think that's so nice that I could be feeling like an absolute potato, feeling and looking my absolute worst, and he'll still look at me like I'm the love of his life and an angel sent from heaven. So yeah, I think finding yourself a man that has that quality, that shows you that kind of love, it's just really nice.
Your tenacity, your ambition, your organization, your, like the things I said before as well. Everything's fun, you know? I love the way that you giggle and laugh at a dog that's sitting still and doing nothing. Nothing.
Cool. What marriage advice have you received that has resonated with you? One of the main things for me is just to keep the romance alive in your relationship. to not kind of get stuck in your habits and routines, but kind of push the norms. Get yourself out there, date each other. I think that's really strong, solid advice that we try to stick to. We go on date nights often. Of course, finances can sometimes get in the way of that. So we try to remember that there is so much natural beauty around us that doesn't cost any money, and to take advantage of that together, or even just cook each other something really special, or dance in the living room just because the moment has come up. So yeah, I think that's really solid advice. Another one that I have received that I think is really good is self-care. So not forgetting to look after yourself and your own needs so that you can be the best person for the other one. I think this is something that I've kind of forgotten here and there, and so just trying to remember that really empowers me to feel better in my own skin and with who I am, so then I can be a better partner for Sam, and same for him for me. If you guys have any marriage advice, anything that is solid for you in your happiness, or that you have seen in others or other people have said to you, another comment that I would love for you to tell me down below. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed just connecting, sitting down with you and chatting, and I so look forward to continuing to share our love story with you and our wedding at the end of the year. It's coming up so quick, and yeah, there's a lot of exciting things in the future for us. I can already see. Can't wait to make another one of these videos in 10 years time to reflect on everything that we have done. Thank you guys for your time. I'll see you next time.